there is a sense of responsibility that lies on my shoulders to eliminate the spirit of gatekeeping. My mother was my number one role model, God rest her soul, but she saw something in me way back in Jamaica before I could identify and see it myself. Moving from Jamaica into the UK was immediately a culture shock. When I started in the finance sector, I started in the call center, but the hunger came from looking up the ladder and not seeing nobody that looked like me. Sometimes black people are afraid to ask for help. I know people who are sitting on hundreds of thousands of pounds under their mattress.
Are you serious?
So to
these
speak,
days,
right? Who don't know what to do with it, but they feel it's safer because it's in my house. I don't want to be the only person in here that is a black person. With God, I know I can't go wrong. And through the difficult moments and the difficult times, he will always keep me straight.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brenda Emmanus, and welcome to the Faith and Finance podcast brought to you by the Pentecostal Community Bank. Today's conversation is about journey, identity, and purpose. Our guest, Mahari Hay, has spent more than 2 decades working at one of the UK's largest banking institutions. He's an award-winning finance sector director, a freeman of the City of London, and CEO and co-founder of the Community, Corporate and Culture Group. But what makes Mahari's story especially powerful is how he's chosen to show up along the way. Born in Jamaica and building a career in British corporate finance, Mahari has navigated spaces where visibility doesn't always come with belonging. Beyond the boardroom, Mahari is also thinking about legacy and civic impact, with ambitions to one day run for Mayor of London, not for status, but for service. This is a conversation about staying rooted while rising, about turning purpose into action. Mahari, thank you so much for joining me.
No, it's more than a pleasure.
It's so good to have you here.
No, I can't. I've been looking forward to this conversation, so I appreciate you taking the time out over this busy kind of holiday period to have this conversation. So thank you for having me.
Well, I want to start with scripture, if you don't mind. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Jeremiah 1, verse 5. How do you respond to that regarding your own purpose?
First of all, let me say preach, because I think everything is built off the foundation of scripture. And I think listening to you kind of recite that particular scripture, I think about my own journey and where I've come from. And there was one person who kind of saw my journey before I could acknowledge it myself. And, my mother was my number one role model, God rest her soul, but she saw something in me way back in Jamaica before I could identify and see it myself.
Did she pinpoint what it was?
No, she just said, you are going to do great things. And you hear those things from your parents all the time, but you never really tap into it because you feel that's just something that parents often say to their children in order for them to apply themselves or at least go on and think differently outside of their friends group, but just kind of really tap into the potential that they see that you have. And I think being in Jamaica and growing up in Jamaica, no place like home, but then my mother moving to England and taking me and being a nurse, and you see certain things that someone who has a heart for other people, you can't kind of take away from that. And I think moving from Jamaica into the UK was immediately a culture shock. I've gone from wearing shorts and string vests and
the big coat.
Come on, right? And I'm seeing trains go underground. I'm seeing double-decker buses, and you think to yourself, this is actually completely and utterly different to what I'm used to. But again, moving away from Jamaica and coming to England, you kind of have to adapt, right? How are you going to have the impact that my mum seems to always be professing and laying hands over me and saying, what are you going to do? And I think in the early part of what I wanted to do stemmed from a very personal experience. And I think my mother was a very proud Jamaican woman, and she took everything, as literal as possible because she wanted to be able to say, my son, he might do great things,
Mm-hmm.
So I never forget, she said, we're going to do something special on a Saturday. And she took me down to a high street bank in Dalston, Hackney. And she went in there, but she treated it like it was a special occasion. So we've gone into this bank. I won't name the bank. But because she couldn't articulate herself in a financial sense, just to bring it to life to this particular person that was supposed to be someone that helps other people, she became flustered and she became easily dismissed.
Right.
Right? Brenda, from that moment, from probably about 13, 14, we never spoke about finances again, ever in my house
Really?
until I opened a bank account on my first day of university at a freshers' fair. And I said to myself, if I ever have the opportunity to work in the financial sector, I will climb the ladder and then I will be that advocate or that connector that helps people to speak the language of the high street banks.
So that was the moment, that was your aha moment, as they call it.
Absolutely. I never had no plans to study finance, to get into business. I was always a creative, and I'm sure we'll dive into that because my love and passion was all about communications, graphic design, art. That was my love and that was my joy. But that moment always stuck with me because a household that doesn't really talk about finances and how you can set yourself up financially, not just for, riches and just being able to be secure financially and think about how you can make smart financial investments, or at least, not worry about where your next meal is coming from because you have those set up. And that moment is the moment for me why I got into finance. At least when I had the opportunity, I said, I won't go for that job. Even though this is a very entry level role, that's my opportunity to get into the door.
So there's something in your spirit that made you realize that that was your calling, clearly. So from you made that decision, was it just all guns blazing where you just focused on that and your own sneaky creative ambitions put aside?
No, not really, because I did love, what I didn't like was taking exams. And I always thought finance,
Neither did I.
I was going to be, I need to know numbers, I need to know maths. But with me, I was always a very good communicator. I used to be able to turn very complex solutions, or at least data, and simplify them so other people could digest the information.
Wow, that's a skill set.
So I thought, marketing, storytelling was always a great angle for me to bring things to life. And I just think trying out those little different types of roles and freelancing jobs, but there was no real kind of impact that I could make because you're just trying to keep up with the trend. What's the next design trend that you can do to stand out from the rest?
Now, when you look at your CV, you see accolades and you see titles, but identity runs deeper than just credentials.
Yeah.
So knowing who you are from an early age, knowing what you wanted to do from an early age, how impactful do you think that was and how important was that?
Yeah, that gave me direction and purpose, right? And I think being able to understand who I am and especially where I'm coming from. And people talk about, yes, you've come from humble beginnings, but my beginnings, they may have been humble, but they were enjoyable. That's what made me. I loved running around with my cousins.
Because as a kid, you know nothing else.
What else do you know? I lived in a tenement yard. For those who are listening and don't know what a tenement yard is, there's about 10, 15 of us living in a small apartment and utilizing all the rooms in that house. But that's all we knew. And if that's all you know and that's all you love, that's what you enjoy. And I think stepping out of that into something where it's gone from a large, close, family-based unit to just me and my mother, yes, I didn't get to have my own bed. But now it's just different because I don't have my cousins. I don't have people that lived on our street that run up and down and just you can enjoy with because it's just me and my mum. And again, those are the things that really help me grounded. And she'd always make me sure I remember those times where we came from to say, it's not that we are forgetting Jamaica. We are just on another chapter before we can get you back to Jamaica to have the impact that I know that you're going to have.
It's funny you said, because that's just prompted my other question that was circling in my head, because you are clearly a very proud Jamaican. How much would you say that your roots have impacted your values and the way you are? Because living in a tenement yard, you obviously have a strong sense of community and sharing. And
yeah, I think that combined with a mother who has a heart for other people. So if you think about the core basis of what it represents to become a nurse is leaving their home and their family to go to another place to cater for people who are practically strangers, but giving them the care and attention they need in order to nurse them back to health. And I think about that journey and seeing my mother do that also gave me that sense of community, being able to kind of become selfless and help other people brings me back to my roots in Jamaica. People were pulling together in order for other people to prosper. You were either watching your kids and someone else's kids while the other person went to work, or you would just had an eye out for everybody. The spirit of community has been embedded in me, and that started in Jamaica. Not when I moved to England. That started from being in the area, being in a tenement yard, being surrounded by families who just know, oh yes, I'm Melody Brown's son. That's what I love. And that's always stayed with me because, as the saying goes, out of many, one people, right? There's many of us that originate from Jamaica, But when you pull back the curtains, we are one people. So we have to stand strong by that.
Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, that you've now had 20 years of really valuable experience navigating the finance sector. How has that been for you? What have been the challenges and the highs?
So I think for me, when I started in the finance sector, I started in the call center. So you can imagine what that represents. Call centers, I was that person that you were calling. I've lost my banking pin. Oh, you're this, you're that. How can you? Right? I was taking them calls regularly. But for me, it was an opportunity to step into an institution and just see a way up. But I think sometimes people look at the entry level positions and think, well, that's not where I want to start. Right? They're after this microwave success, my mum used to call it, where they want to pop something in, 30 seconds, you're at the top.
I love that term.
She say you have to slow cook, you have to pressure cook your success.
Like a good casserole.
A good casserole or oxtail.
Yeah.
Right? So it takes time to simmer. And I always used to think, okay, well, I've graduated from university. I have a degree, but here's an opportunity in a call center. It made me who I am. Because a lot of the friends that I have or have kind of supported me through my banking journey, a lot of them have left the bank. But in that infancy of my career, they were the ones that kind of we had morale in the call center. But again, it taught me the early intricacies of banking because I was having conversations to find out about what an APR was, what about banking and interest rates and what these things represented, and just also exposed me to all the other challenges that people are going through because you're speaking to so many different customers. So you can understand that it isn't just my family going through difficulty or trying to find access to finance. It was a national conversation. And I think being able to start from the entry level position made me appreciate my journey even more. But the hunger came from looking up the ladder and not seeing nobody that looked like me.
Which takes me nicely to my next question. Financial wisdom isn't gained by accident. Financial security is not reserved for the privileged few. Getting your money right requires intentionality, practical resources, and education. That's why the Pentecostal Community Bank offers a wide variety of financial literacy workshops, courses, and support to help you get your finances back on track. Find out more by visiting pcbank.co.uk. Listen to this, Matthew, verse 5. You're the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. You're clearly not hidden. You're at the top of your game now.
Amen.
So what's it been like for you as a black man navigating, sitting at top table where you are very present?
So I think for me, there is a sense of responsibility that lies on my shoulders to eliminate the spirit of gatekeeping and welcome in a spirit of gate openers. Because when you start in an entry-level position and you're trying to climb the corporate ladder, to think, once I get into a position of influence, what do you then do with that influence, right? But in order to sit where I am now, there has been some challenges and some bumps in the road because not every job or not every opportunity that you go for, you are getting yeses. But how do you use the no's to fuel you to drive onto the next yes? And I think for me, over 2 decades, I first leaned into opportunities that were going to sharpen my financial skills in terms of business acumen, right? And I used to play down the skill sets that actually got me into the positions of influence, which was my ability to communicate, to stakeholder engage, manage upwards, because the people that you're engaged with above you are the people that are going to pull you up.
Of course.
Right? It doesn't take away from your ability to engage with the people who are your peers or because those are the people that you need to strengthen you. But when you're talking about going for promotions or going for opportunities, it's the people that are above you that are going to help you to get into those positions. So you need to be influential in a sense where they see you and they know that you can add value to what you're doing. So every step that I took to get me to the next level, I never forgot about the people that helped me on that journey, because once I got into a new room, I'm putting my foot to catch the door to say, Brenda, come. I don't want to be the only person in here that is a black person, right? It's about how do we get more representation in the room. So if Brenda now manages to get out of this room into the next level up, I will hold the door open. So when the next person comes, they hold it, and then I'll follow back behind you.
And how easy was that to kind of do? Because there are blockers on the way. There are people that don't want too many of you up at the table.
Yeah.
There are people that are threatened when they see change.
Yeah, and I think my mum used to say something. And you'll find me reference my mum a lot,
That's
because
good.
she
That's
spoke
good. You've got solid
so well.
foundation.
She said, if you could choose to be anything, choose to be kind. And I credit that to my ability to lead from a personal standpoint, where resilience isn't just about grit, and it's about stepping into a mode where you can climb out of and showcase your skills in new rooms, right? So people always say, if there isn't a seat for you at the table, build your own table. It sounds very cliche, but again, you have to create a space to make sure the people who are making decisions know that, well, we can't do this without Mahari, right? And Mahari gets into that room, we can't do this without Brenda, right? I'm bringing into this world opportunities for others. But I think you need to be able to showcase and demonstrate your skill set where people are leaning on your excellence and your expertise, where you become an SME, which is a subject matter expert in whatever project or initiative that you're driving, to know that, wow, this isn't just a diversity hire. This isn't just right, we need somebody else that isn't looking like us in the room to really make the optics look great. There's a particular skill set that we're missing. That's Mahari.
And there's been a lot of pushback on DEI recently. Are you concerned by that?
So, not that I'm concerned, but we should be alarmed by that, right? And people should be facing into that, because you shouldn't want to numb down the skill sets of people who are brilliant, regardless of where they're from, regardless of the color of their skin, their ethnicity. People are brilliant. And I think when people show up and show their excellence in their jobs, they will do excellent things in their jobs. And sometimes we can become distracted when they throw that in our face, when they talk about, oh, are you a diversity hire? No, they're damn good at their job. Keep them in that position and don't look at the color of their skin, because they've been delivering for so long. Why is it all of a sudden it's become a diversity conversation? And if you look at some of the metrics that are linked to people who do not identify as white heritage, there are excellent people. Brenda, you and I have been in rooms where you look around and the room is filled with black people who are holding extremely senior positions where this economy could not function without them. Are they diversity hires? No, you look at their credentials, their LinkedIn profiles, they've studied at some of the best institutions in the world.
You have to do that a lot, don't you? Because no matter how hard you work, sometimes the perception will never change. I know I've had times when you have to do the management course, you have to do the training course, have to do whatever you have to do, you do it, and you end up there. But you're still perceived that. The amount of time I've gone in a room and said, "Oh, you're the one on the course, or you're the one that did the leadership course," not you're the one that worked really hard and has had sleepless nights to get to where you are.
Absolutely, and I think your reputation precedes you, and also there is a responsibility of people who you consider your peers or your advocates to speak up for you in rooms that you are not in. So when you're not in that room and people leave those remarks or say those things, be like, hey, don't talk about Brenda like that.
Yeah.
She could walk a mile and beyond in your shoes and do your job 10 times better than you if she had the opportunity. And that's what I want people to do when they're in rooms and they hear of opportunities that other people they know would fit and deliver in. They need to speak up your name.
So you've clearly learned how to support others as well as navigate your own career. Tell me what you've learned about finance and money management while you've been working in the banking institution.
There's enough for everybody. Not just money, but knowledge, right? But sometimes if you don't know, you don't know. And what I've learned is people that have access to the knowledge need to share their wisdom when it comes to financial management. When I was growing up, the only thing my mother came towards saving was partner. And I used to have to get on a bus and then walk to Ferry Lane Estate, right, where she would throw her partner on a weekly basis. And I'd have to wait, month at a time, whatever it may be, to get her draw. Do you understand? And great, because that amplifies the spirit of community. But what if there's one bad apple in that chain that decides to break the chain, run off with the money, or doesn't begin to give back what you gave in? It becomes very difficult.
Of course, it breaks the system down.
It breaks the system down. But the community, especially the Black, Caribbean, West Indian community, was built off that trust, right? And when you see that, it's about how do we make sure that this is in financial institutions where people don't need to throw partner? Yes, it's great because that's a cultural, historical thing that we do. But if they want to invest in business, that they want to find money to kind of grow a business or start something or get mortgages, etc., we need to share the wisdom, right? And what I've learned in the financial sector is that knowledge is not shared. And sometimes Black people are afraid to ask for help.
Pride.
Pride is right. I know people who are sitting on hundreds of thousands of pounds under their mattress.
Are you serious?
So
In
to
these
speak,
days,
right? Who don't know what to do with it, but they feel it's safer because it's in my house.
Wow.
Instead of investing it or being able to make your money work better for you, right? And we're talking people who have worked years, blood, sweat and tears, doing difficult jobs, subject to so much, all different types of abuse, but they've saved up enough money to maybe buy a house back home, so they want to retire and get back. But the time that they've been saving,
that interest
that money
could have been juicy.
multiplied, tripled, invested, done different things. And that's only because pride, they don't know who to ask. And trust. So Mahari has a responsibility to, whether it's upskill other people to say, you need to be seen as somebody that people, black people especially, can lean into and say, Mahari, I got a couple of 100,000. I don't know what to do with it. Can you advise? And you might not have the answer, but you might know somebody who can help them.
But on a more basic level than that, because that's an extraordinary story to hear, and we do obviously need to make sure that kind of knowledge is spread. What basic knowledge would you share with people? Like people live not hand to mouth, but they say you're always 2 page wage packets away from poor. Especially in this country with the economy going how it's going. But someone who hasn't got like that kind of level of money hidden somewhere, what would you be saying? Should everybody put away a little bit? Is saving important? What would you be saying to people?
Yeah, so I definitely think saving is absolutely important. You never know what's around the corner. But I think the little saving that you can have, I think when you have a little, it could be your last, right? The Bible speaks about tithing and giving to Pharaoh what is theirs, and keeping what is yours, and give unto the Lord what is the Lord's, right? There's a particular amount that you can know what's comfortable for you. So when you know that you put that aside, or you've saved it, or you've invested it, those are the things that will help you in the moments of trouble and difficulty to say, you know what? I had a conversation with Mahari, or I had a conversation with this person, and after I've settled all my bills and the expenses and all these different things, I've always realized that there's a little bit of surplus. How can I make that money work for me? Not just to shoo it under the mattress and say, I'm going to go and draw on that when I need to buy an extra little thing. But that little that I'm about to use, how can I make it work for me? And there are so many different initiatives and sometimes you just need to know who to ask the right questions to, because you don't need to have £100,000, £50,000. You could only have £100, but there are little things that you can use your money to invest in order to help that money work better for you.
Now, if anyone was sitting in this room, they'd feel what I'm feeling, that energy that you have, which is just pure optimism and a really positive outlook. Like anybody in life, things can go wrong. What's your attitude when you're faced with challenges, and how do you deal with them?
So I'm a very scripture-based person, right? And I think about the Bible and I think about what it represents for me in my life. Not everybody's always operating on 100 miles an hour of positivity. But what I always rely on, and I always think about it, the Bible tells a story that we go home and there is no more pain and there's no more suffering. It's joy, right? And I break it down to as simple as, how can I lose, Brenda, if the Bible tells me that I win in the end? Right? My mum used to say, don't worry about that, because say we'll go home one day. And I used to think, what do you mean?
I'm not ready.
Right? What about here on earth, mum? What are you talking about? She's like, everything will work out in the end. And sometimes it sounds very blasé, but I look at life just like that, because I know God would not want me to suffer because he has a bigger plan for me. And it's the moments where I have felt like I can't win, I look back now and thinking, oh my goodness, I couldn't believe I was thinking I couldn't get out of that rut. But now I'm in the opportunity to actually think about running for an office of power, being able to change ecosystems and infrastructure and have decisions being made around policies that will change the dynamic, not just for black people, but for people who need better access to finance or just being able to a better standard of living. That's the power that I rest assured on. And I think God's word is it's glorious, man.
So let's talk about that now. When you're talking about going for Mayor of London, when and how did that become one of your visions and your ambitions, and why?
So I think for me, I grew up in London, right? So, the best part of my career in life, and just being able to kind of see a city that's thriving and prospering, and one of the most influential cities in the entire world. And I think about the impact of Black people, and I think about people just in general. And I think for me, it was starting to think about the community, corporate and culture group, right? That represents, how do we celebrate the unsung heroes of British society? And I always used to think about, my wife and I would go to award ceremonies, and you'd always think back in, oh, let's welcome up Brenda Emmanus Businesswoman of the Year. Brenda would step up on stage, and you might deliver 2 or 3 minutes of testifying about other people that have helped you on that journey to become the person that you are. And you might look across to Brenda's table and you see her family and her friends cheering her on. And I turned to my missus and said, so who's creating a platform to recognize those people at the table who are celebrating Brenda, who Brenda is exalting and talking about? Those are the people that make up every ethos of every community, right? Let's build something that celebrates those individuals. And that's where this idea of celebrating the unsung heroes birthed from. And I thought, if I'm doing this for the people, right, and you don't just want to be seen of having impact in small groups and small numbers, let's take it to a big level. Mm-hmm. Let's have some real change. So growing this platform from, it's only been running 18 months, but being able to have huge corporate partners that have said, Mahari, well, like your thing, man, definitely. That comes off 20 years of working in the corporate space.
Yeah, and building relationships.
Exactly. And a lot of people, and the biggest testimony that I've kind of had or complimented, people are saying, I cannot believe that you've only been doing this for 18 months. And there are brands that require almost a decade of you delivering before they even think about joining on with you. But you've done it, first of all, without even having a case study to show. I said, you think that's me, but that's when your steps have already been ordained. That's already been set out for you. So I'm just stepping into something that was already marked out for me.
And what is it, an annual award? How does it work?
Yeah, so absolutely. So I want people to understand the community, corporate and culture group at the end of every year has the cherry on the top, which is an award ceremony. Mm-hmm. But before that, we have all the initiatives that help support communities, because we lean into, and we are the connector between corporate responsibility to understand that the areas that they operate and do business in, they have a social mobility responsibility to serve the communities that they operate in.
Because they're the ones that make them, essentially.
So they're the ones that make them, essentially. So what we do, we act as the connector in between those relationships. So if you have a program, one of the key programs that we did was a football mentoring program, where I was able to get senior corporate leaders to go down to an estate in Deptford to play football with these young Black guys, and then give them upskilling skills on CV writing, career mentorship, guidance. We had the Barclaycards Premier League trophy, the real one. Yeah. Through relationships that I have at Barclays, they brought it down to an estate in Deptford. All the community came out because they didn't know it was happening. And we had a football tournament, and now built up a very successful mentoring program where these young Black guys, who sometimes thought, how would I ever get to connect with somebody that's chairing board meetings? Yeah. Or have that conversation, because I never once thought that could be for me. And that is the power of what this community and the community, corporate and culture group represents. And we unearth true and real life stories, but also we connect with individuals who are doing great things. Because if you think about what a village represents, in my household, I have my missus, dentistry, 20 years. I've got a daughter who wants to be a lawyer, another wants to be a teacher, and a young son who I'm training up to be a footballer.
Paying for Arsenal.
I don't know about that. But again, if you think about all the different skill sets that's needed for a village and a community to prosper, why would I create a platform that only talks about one specific sector? So on the night when we talk about celebrating people, we've got Mother of the Year, Father of the Year, Community Impact Leader, Social Justice and Equality Leader. We've got entrepreneurs, we've got young visionary, a broad range of skill sets, Amazing. Excellence in media, excellence in music, all the things that make a community prosper. So on the same night, we can celebrate the leader of FTSE 100 company, is the same night we can celebrate a mother just for raising her children.
Fantastic.
Let them feel that we see you, not when you're retired and not when you've passed on to go on to be with the Lord.
It's the unsung heroes, really, isn't it?
It's about bringing their stories to life and creating opportunity for them to either help them get to the next level personally or professionally, creating them and giving them contacts and opportunities.
Now, I mentioned our Mayor of London, your Mayor of London ambition, but we went on to talk about this amazing group
Yes.
that you started. So let's go back to this.
Let's go back to
Why are you wanting to step into Sadiq's shoes?
So I think it's an important role
Yeah.
that has an impact on so many people, and not just for London. I think the ability to be able to deliver something and help and serve people starts from being somewhere you can have real impact. And Brendan, I keep using the word impact, right? Because again, God rest Melody Brown, she used to say to me, you have more impact than you could even realize.
That's
so
true.
stop ramp. That's what she...
But people are watching you when you're in these positions. People watch, and I get that all the time. I get people coming up with say, like young people who I thought never even knew who I was, saying, "Oh, my mum used to love you," or you made a difference to me. That's why I wanted to go into work in television." And we don't see that because we're so busy doing what we're doing.
Exactly.
We forget that when you're visible, you're impacting more people than you know.
So, and the key saying and thinking about that key phrase, this is a pillar of society. What pillars represent is something that is always there. So if I disappear on holiday for a year and go to another country and I come back to where I'm from, and there's this pillar. It hasn't moved, but it's upholding a structure within a community that people use as a reference point. So if I can be seen as a pillar of a community, that is always somewhere I can look to get back my grounding and reshape and be, okay, I might have swayed off track for a little bit, but when I align myself with the pillar that hasn't moved, then I have a reference point of greatness. And this is somebody I can put my trust in, who I know, who has a heart for the people, to serve them in a way that we can bring change. And not just change in a moment, not just in change for the 4 years that you might be in power, but create real legacy. How do you utilize and have and create real legacy that people are looking to say, well, his 4 years was cool, but no. In those 4 years, he was able to do this, this, and this, which I now know is going to be in place for the next 12 years until someone else picks up the baton. It's all about creating and being a pillar that people look to as a reference point to align back when they start to stray.
You've heard that saying, politics is a dirty game. How's a man of God going to navigate that then?
Yeah, listen. When God went into the temple and he saw them doing business, what did he do? He kicked over the table. He said, this is a house where we're going to set it straight. And I think sometimes I like to keep it as simple as possible, right? With God, I know I can't go wrong. And through the difficult moments and the difficult times, he will always keep me straight. People might use me as a reference point, as their pillar, but they know that by using me as their reference point, I'm using God as my reference point. Difficult moments will always come. But if you just draw back to basics, draw back to the word, God has an answer for everything. His timing is the only timing that you need to worry about. Because if you knew when things were going to happen and go right and wrong, you wouldn't really have faith, right? So those difficult moments, it's all about having faith, even if it's small as a mustard seed. It just starts from something small. And that's what you need to lean on. And that's how I keep my faith and my positivity in a place of strength, I should say.
I still want to inject myself with your positivity because if I'm to be honest, at the moment when I look at the world, and maybe because I'm an empath, I absorb the energy so much. I am so down and afraid and concerned about what I'm seeing worldwide. And I'm looking at our leaders and I'm wondering I'm sure there's a lesson in it which I haven't yet deciphered what it is, and I'm wondering if it's because of our responsibility and we are the people that some of us vote how we vote, and that's the impact of what's happened. But what do you see and what do you feel when you see what's going on worldwide?
So I'm very much in pain when I see a lot of the things that are happening, whether it stretches from natural disasters to, I want to say, evil acts that you can see, that you kind of sit down and you think, I cannot even imagine that someone would run that through their mind to do something like that.
Exactly.
Right? And I think to myself, okay, what can I actually do? Right? My wife always says to me, and I tell her, don't stress about nothing, because certain things that you're stressing about, you have no power at the moment that you can actually change. So let's take a step back and think about, so what can you actually do in this moment to create an impact or make things work differently? And I think the things that are in my power at the moment is impacting my network around me, because you don't know that somebody could be watching this podcast one day and said, Mahari, I don't know that guy, but he said something, and this could be a guy sitting in power in another country, and decide, you know what, I was going to do that, but I'm going to change what I'm going to do. I'm going to do something else. So I think change starts from home, starts from you as an individual. And I think what you're trying to change, or the impact that you're trying to have, make sure you are living in that moment. The change that you want to see starts with yourself.
And when people would look at or reflect on your legacy, I was going to say 20 years down the line, but let's say 10 years down the line, what would you want that legacy to be?
This is a man that always had time for people, because he wanted people to realize the potential that they have and the impact that they can make in order to help other people be great. And that's what I want my children to see, right? I've been through the hardships and the difficulties, and now raising them in a way to understand and appreciate Dad's been through the hard times, you know what I'm saying? And not so you don't have to go through them, but if you ever do fall upon hard times, you use your dad as a reference point to say, this will only be a season, because what we're going through now, we have a testimony to tell at the end of it. And I think my legacy is all based around having a real impact that showcases that we can get out of anything. And people look back at themselves, I think sometimes forget their superpowers and who they are as individuals. They look about their achievements at work and you think, before you even reach work, you've managed to get 3 kids dressed, drive them to school, drop off this person and that, they're done the shopping, and now you've settled down in your job.
That's multitasking.
Think about the power that you have and the things that you're doing, and don't let other people's metrics be based and be able to tell you how great that you are.
And finally, you talk so much about personal responsibility. What message would you like to leave to our people listening about personal responsibility in terms of finances, in terms of life management and impact?
I'm going to look into the camera and tell you this one.
I'll go ahead.
Your money is your money, but there is a responsibility that you have to take control of your finances, because those rainy times and those rainy seasons, you're going to be able to look down on yourself and say, I did think differently when it came to my finances. And as we step into this new year, think about a new year, new me, right? Not changing who you are as an individual, but setting yourself up for success by starting small and doing small things, because it's not just about doing one big thing that changes your world. You could change 100 small things that completely revolutionizes how you kind of handle your money and your finances. And if you find difficulties in the ways that you're doing that, hit me up. I can help you. I can point you in the right direction. I can help you connect the dots to people who could help you manage your money better, or at least be able to think and at least drive a different conversation when it comes to managing your money.
Mahari, I want to thank you, because I think you've proved that leadership isn't about how high you rise, but how grounded you are in your community, in your vision, and in your impact and purpose. So really grateful for that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel good. And I'm just, you see my smile. It's been a fantastic conversation. But thank you for having me.
Keep smiling. Mahari is reminding us that representation without action is incomplete, that visibility carries weight, and that legacy is built long before titles are handed down. From Jamaica to the city, from corporate leadership to community, Mahari is taking care of business and encouraging us all to do the same. His deep faith and financial savvy makes him perfect for this podcast. From all of us here, thank you very much for joining us. Do like and subscribe if you like what you've heard, and we'll see you again on the other side. God bless.